2022 Lunch and Learn series with a focus on race equality. I'm Sharon Slinger from Constructing Rainbows and have been supporting Fortel's diversity as Fortel's diversity and inclusion partner for a couple of years now. The Lunch and Learn series will focus on various diversity and inclusion issues throughout the year. In today's session for UK Race Equality Week, we will be talking about the theme Action, Not Just Words. And we have a great panel of speakers today who will be just about to introduce themselves and the work that they do. Amar, I'll pass over to you to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amar Sandhawalia. I'm the Group CEO and EDI lead at Fortel Group.
Thanks, Amar. And Priya?
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Priya Aggarwal-Shah. I'm the founder and director of BAME in Property, which is an organisation to help promote more ethnic diversity in the property and planning sectors. For my day job, I'm also a comms consultant working on major housing and infrastructure projects.
Super, thank you, Priya. And Tru?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Truchio Powell. I am a personal branding and publicity coach, as well as running several different businesses in the Midlands, but I'm also an activist for race relations.
Thanks, Tru. I don't think Amos has joined yet, so when he joins, we'll get him to introduce himself as well. So we've got various questions lined up, but what I would say is should be able to see a comments box on your feed. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask the panel, please put them in there, and we'll add them to the question lists and hopefully get them answered for you. So we'll start off with a few. Oh, hold on, Amos has just joined. Welcome, Amos.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you. Do you want to just want to introduce yourself and the organisations that you work for?
Yes, yeah, I'm Amos, Simbo. I work for BP Network as well as Women's Services in construction.
Brilliant, thanks, Amos. So we're just going to crack on with the questions. So the first question we've got is, the theme of this year's Race Equality Week is action, not just words. The Black Lives Matter movement in 2020 prompted a lot of words in our industry. Do you believe this has been followed up by action? And if so, can you give some good examples? Priya, if we start with you on that one. Priya, are you on mute?
Gosh, you think nearly 2 years of doing this, we'd have got used to it. I think since the Black Lives Matter movement, there has been quite a lot of desire for change. And I think companies want to make some changes internally. They've set up diversity groups. They've, potentially even hired diversity consultants to help them with that change. But I often think that they've tried to run before they can walk. And I think, simply having a diversity group isn't the solution to, trying to move away from, Black Lives Matter or trying to resolve anti-racism sort of thoughts or practices, because often that burden of changing practices actually falls upon those who are often, often really impacted by racism or discriminatory practices. So I think it's really important for companies to recognize that if they are looking to make changes, that they are looking to work together as opposed to trying to champion certain people to do it for them. So I think that's one thing that I would say, is that quite a lot of companies have put it on the shoulders of their diversity groups, and that's not really their role. They're just sort of there to make suggestions rather than make effective change. And I think quite a lot of companies want to make changes really, really quickly without recognizing that this is something which will actually happen over time. So I think, it starts with your company as a whole. D&I is not something which can be, added on into a company. It should very much be ingrained into the whole company's organization and sort of practices as a whole. And I think as soon as companies recognize that completely drives their hiring practices, recruitment, talent, their training sessions, everything. Also the way that they approach their client work or, sort of work with their suppliers, they've also got to be diverse as well. And I think everything is very much embedded together. But I think a lot of companies think that by tapping into a few D&I practices, they've sort of ticked the box, and they're really making those changes since Black Lives Matter movement started in 2020. So I would say in short, that progress has been slow, but there's definitely been that desire for some change.
Thanks, Priya. I couldn't agree more with that. That's from what I've seen as well. Amos, do you want to add anything?
Was it say is the actual change happening in the industry?
Yeah.
No, I think people really want to change things, but I think the hardest bit is actually doing it for a lot of people, and echo some of what Priya was saying as well. I think for us, most of the time we're sort of at the forefront of it, and even when hiring people, that sort of last step, you have to just give someone the job, or actually be be inclusive as you want to be, seems to be the biggest challenge. The rest of the process is sort of easy, when people are getting in. Some people automate their processes, etc. But it's that last mile. So I think the industry does want to change, but I think there's a slight hesitation sometimes in actually delivering and actually doing. And I guess it sort of touches on familiarity and what people think is going to be the case. And then sometimes you're being compared with other people, for example, when opportunities knocking, who probably had a bit more experience, but then there's no way you can get that experience without actually getting the opportunity. So I think the industry, does want to change, like just like everybody else. I want to go to the gym every day, but I never end up in the gym. But so it's that kind of attitude, But then I like it being a personal choice, like me, or that's also. We should actually be changing as an industry. So I think the intent is there. Don't get me wrong, and we are seeing some positives. So it's not everyone. There are organisations out there that are working effectively, relatively as as hard as they can, so within reason, to actually bring that change. But I think we still got we still got some way to go on that.
Yeah, I mean, from both what you and Priya have said, do you think people are looking, and you both are in organisations such as BAME Property, Black Professionals in Construction, do you think that people are hoping there's a quick solution by kind of supporting organisations like that and being able to put a banner on their website saying that they're supporting those organisations? Or do you think that they actually are wanting to take on board what your organisations are trying to achieve? Priya or Amos?
I'd say a bit of both, really. I don't think there's any harm in sort of openly saying, look, we support BAME Property or Black professionals in construction. I think it's great that the industry is engaging with our networks, with our organisations. That's really what we wanted to achieve with them. Well, I speak for myself here, but I think that is sort of part of the solution. There are definitely some organisations out there which will just sort of contact me and want to include the BAME Property logo on their website, almost like a badge of honour, and say, look, we are very supportive of, diverse practices. But actually, if you look at their company website, the rest of it, you look at their team structure or their team page, and it's just, middle-class white men as part of their leadership team. So you've got this logo, which is saying one thing, and then you've got the rest of their website, which is saying other things, and the two don't really match up. So I think it's really important for companies to recognize is that if they are supporting an organization like BAME Property, that you are making those changes all throughout your company and your company website, which is the first port of call for so many individuals who are looking to join your company. You want it to attract diverse talent, but if you are not speaking to them, you are just not going to attract them.
Super. True, you are not from the construction industry, so it'd be really good to hear your perspective from outside of the industry.
Yeah, Sharon, thank you. And I think it's such an important question. And please forgive me because I'm quite direct with some of my answers. And has the Black Lives Matter movement followed up with enough action? Absolutely not. And I'm speaking broadly across several different industries. I feel a lot of organisations and companies are very performative when it comes to their work with equality. And I also think that actually companies need to be willing to break down completely their company structure as it stands, or at least look at it and reflect on it and understand how white supremacy, misogyny is embedded in the company. And then and only then, once they really understand that and start breaking that down, then I believe that we might have a chance in order to have a fairer and more equal society. I mean, since Black Lives Matter, I mean, I've been fighting this for a very, very long time. And trigger warning, my cousin unfortunately was killed in the same way as George Floyd in 2003 by police. So this isn't new to me, but rather than a knee being in Mikey's neck, it was actually a foot. And it's not new. We've been fighting this for a very, very long time. And the same issues that we were fighting in 2003, which is nearing on 20 years ago, are the same issues that we're fighting now. The only difference now is that a lot of companies are being really performative. They have a desire to change, but it's not translating in companies. And I think companies are really hiding behind, we're listening and we're learning. No, that was 2 years ago, practically, since the Black Square summer. It's time for listening and learning is now over. We need action, and we need to understand, what does action look like, and how do we effect change in our organizations. And like Priya was saying, some of the things is your shop window, your website, what does that look like? How are you going to attract diverse talent into your organizations? And actually, people need to start working on themselves. CEOs, directors, you need to start addressing your own prejudices, because there's no point in trying to make all this change in your organization, and then when a Black person walks into a lift, you clutch your handbag, or when your daughter or son brings home a Black partner, you start to hide things in the household. You've got to start working on yourself and addressing your own prejudices, and then and only then will we start to see change. Look, change is always top down, never bottom up. So we have to start from the top, and we have to almost certainly start to deconstruct white supremacy and misogyny before we even touch the surface.
Thanks, True. I think what you're saying is we need action, not just listening now. And I couldn't agree more. I felt like 2 years ago in our industry there was a lot of Black Lives Matter statements went out and no action at all. I followed it. Really sorry to hear about your cousin. That must have been really difficult. And it really does bring it home that these occurrences are happening close to home. To people in our country, and it's ongoing. Amar, you're obviously Fortel's a minority-owned business. Do you want to add anything about the action that you've been doing?
Yeah, I think across the industry, action, not just words, and I think Priya and True's kind of hit the points there, and Amos has then come across saying there is a change, and then going back to Priya, the change is too slow. And then going to True's thing where he said it's top down. What we're seeing at the moment is some of the CEOs and COOs of the bigger tier 1 contractors are now coming out to drive the agenda. They're trying to put some targets in place and everything. Yes, there's just numbers, but that's how businesses work. Maybe a small step towards it at the moment, but we need to drive those. To drive a change, we have to start somewhere, and as a business, you have to drive from targets. You set targets up to your teams, to do some of the right things, and then what we need to then add on is to add on the training that they need, which again, True really hit on the head there, because what we need to be doing is that subconsciously bias and everything, that all that's training and support is what we as employers need to be giving our managers. That's their tools that then give them the right tools to make the right decision. I guess getting down to that, and then I guess it goes back down to policies and procedures. If your policies and procedures are aligned to what you're saying as a company, and it brings out that unconscious bias, to a side. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things in the industry that that we can improve on. I think we can take it from different industries. Different industries are doing blanket CVs, like in white collar. We can bring that into blue. We started bringing it into the blue collar now arena as well, where the details are hidden and you don't know. It's just experience. So that's why you get the people from the experience, from the qualification, not for what they have, who they are, kind of thing. And it's for the qualification and the person they are. I think we are here at Fortel again as a company. We've set out, our EDI targets, top 5 by 2025. We are working through it as well. As a BME owned company, we're quite diverse as a workforce. We look at the data. Where we are not good enough, we bring in experts, so like Sharon, to help us understand, how we can get more inclusiveness and more engagement from our staff where we're not getting enough engagement from, I guess. And that's where we are going through each one of the target and setting up a strategy, how we're going to tackle that particular part. And I take back to Priya's thing, where Priya mentioned about the groups are being created. And one of the targets we have got is it's a D&I panel group to discuss the D&I issues. I think for us it's slightly different because we have workers who work out on site and everything, and the engagement. So we want to get them engaged, I think, from site level to understand what is the site level issues that they are facing and how we can improve as an employer, or how we can become inclusive as an industry. I think we've done the Hyatt scheme, Make It Stick, where we got stickers of LGBTQ plus LI, or mental health first aiders LI, for somebody who can recognize people, expert people on site very quickly and go for help. And I think with the panel, what we're trying to think is at the moment is to drive down into different subgroups, which will then drive down into where do we focus, on which subgroup, and each person, for somebody from site can head a group, and then they can bring a change of what they want to change. They bring it back to us, and we can help. How, as an employer, we can help. We can put policies. We can have some funding to put those initiatives in place that the workforce, think they should be there, and they're not there at the moment. And obviously, training is a big part of it. I guess that's it from me.
Can I just sorry, can I fire just a question whilst we're on this question? I think action is a really operative word and may mean different things to different people. So I think for anybody that's on the call, any organisations or businesses, I think what they really need to decide is, what does the word action mean to them? Because for some, action may just mean a logo or hiring a consultant and putting it out there. Whereas Amar, quite eloquently described some of the steps and action that he's taken in his organisation. So I think it's really, really important that people really understand what the word action means to their organisation, and how far are they willing to take action? How far are they willing to go for equality? And I just wanted to throw that out there for people to think about.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think what we see is a lot of what I would call tinkering around the edges. And actually, as you mentioned before, we need to see that full on kind of structural review of how businesses work, and where those blockers are and those barriers are. Just we touched on kind of a top-down approach. I've got a question here about diverse leaders. So there's still a lack of ethnically diverse leaders within the industry. Rather than waiting for the younger generations to come through the business, how can we speed up the process? Amos, if you want to help answer that one.
Sorry, I just had a glitch in my phone. Can you repeat the question a little bit?
There is still a lack of ethnically diverse leaders within the industry. Rather than waiting for the younger generations to come through the business, how can we speed up the process?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great question, actually. And I don't personally, I don't think the issue has ever been. I think young people have just been used as a decoy, like most of the time, and a lot of the times, I think when we started the BPIC journey, most of the time, sort of go to an organization, say, whatever we're doing, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to schools, we're going to this, we're going to school for ages. there's never been they've never solved the skill shortage just by going to schools for since 100 years ago or whatever. There's always been a skill shortage. There's been a gender shortage. There's been no diversity. So it's been used as a decoy for so many different reasons. People want to talk about young kids, but they don't want to talk about the adults that live right in front of them every day. So it's almost like, and it still happens now. Everyone's like, oh yeah, but we need to do schools. People are actually there. So for example, in a space like, let's say, for example, London, where there's 42% ethnic minorities, like you got a question like, where are they? Do you know what I mean? Like if they're not there, if your organization is only got 1 or 2%, they're obviously somewhere else, not there, and not doing what you're doing or earning the money that you're earning, sort of thing. So I think it's always been a decoy. Where they are is you go in the TFL in the tube and you see a guy with a PhD sweeping the floor. That's where they are. If you're asking, people, and those people, because they can't get the jobs in the places where they should be, where they are is you go in an organization and somebody overly qualified sitting there and doesn't get promoted. So people are there. The concept that it's young people is honestly, it's if you really look into it, it's always been an excuse. And not that it shouldn't go to young people, but it's always been the focus in a similar way that, for example, the elements around social value a few years ago, people were talking about, what are you doing for the society? Like, oh yeah, we just picked a bit of litter and we painted some more in the nursery, but they could do a lot more, like with that. So it's just challenging those sort of, when people say things like that, the people that we need to employ are already there. They just need to be given a chance, because it's a vicious cycle. If someone doesn't give you that chance, let's say to become a director, number one, people that are interested in directors are never going to be interested in you as if you're not a director. So you're never going to get to build that network that you want to build. And then if you're not a director, you're never going to know what being a director feels like. So you're never going to get that experience. So you just keep going around, and someone is like, oh, yeah, we didn't get the job because you don't really know anybody. But how am I going to know anybody? Because no one actually wants to know me to start with. In that sort of scenario. So I think people are already there. Young people are always going to be coming through the system, but it's just sort of really challenging those sayings, because they've gone on for ages in our industry, in particular, has just suffered from these things because we just toe in that same line to say, yes, you need to go to schools, but then where are they going after schools, etc. So I think the people are there. I don't think we need to wait for young people. You need to deal with the ones right in front of you that in organizations, to make them stay so that they don't leave. I think that's where some of the biggest challenges are.
Yeah, research has shown that one of the biggest challenges is the first step up to management, and that's where kind of what the term the broken rung of the ladder. It'd be interesting to hear from you, Priya, on your thoughts on this.
On about talent, trying to progress through the sort of ranks.
Yeah, and how we can get people there faster.
I think one of the main things is how we do our recruitment. So I think, first and foremost, it's important to think about who is interviewing, different candidates. Have you got a diverse recruitment panel? Are you doing everything you can to remove unconscious bias? Bearing in mind that it's impossible to eliminate all biases. Everyone inherently has some level of unconscious bias based on who we've grown up with, who we know, our friends, family, social connections, and so on. So I think it's doing everything that companies possibly can to eliminate bias, or trying to reduce bias rather, and making sure that they've got diverse panels, that they are removing things on CVs which might influence them. Now, I'm very much against removing names. I don't think I don't think we should ever remove names, but you could potentially remove educational institution. You could remove things like interests, not all interests, but sometimes interests can be very influential on who we hire. So you see that somebody likes skiing or playing rugby, and that instantly gives you an impression of the sort of social person that they may or may not be. And I think it's really important that we try and remove those sort of influences. I think that's really important. Secondly, I don't think people want to be hired just on the basis of the color of their skin. I think at the end of the day, it does come down to how hard someone works, whether they've actually deserved that role, and so on. And I think research has shown that the majority of ethnic minority sort of candidates or individuals in any industry have to work usually 10 times harder to even be recognized. So I think it's really important to know that when you do have an ethnic minority candidate in front of you, more often than not, they are very or highly qualified, and they are sort of in that position because they've not been able to progress. And I think it's really important for those who are interviewing to recognize that they are getting very, very talented candidates in front of them, so they are very deserving and worthy candidates. And I'll stop there to let others sort of say their piece as well.
I think that's interesting, and the intersectionality of it as well, particularly kind of with women in those positions as well, having had to have worked 10 times harder, is something to really keep an eye on. True? You want to add?
Yeah, obviously I'm not in the industry, so I don't know, but I will suspect that firstly, there's a thing to say or a piece around representation and how that translates to, I guess, Black ethnic minorities within the sector. So how many people can they see that looks like them in positions of leadership? How many mentors are they having of people that look like them in positions of leadership? And also access, how can they access those positions? How are they finding out about the positions, or is it being, gate kept, for want of a better word? So I think it's going to be the same issues and problems that echoes throughout different industries when it comes to kind of Black ethnic minorities in leadership roles, and particularly we need to look at the intersectionality between women within the construction industry itself, because they're also underrepresented. But then when you look at the intersectionality between Black women as well within the industry, it kind of echoes throughout different industries of society. So I would suspect that within the industry, there's a few reasons as to why there is no kind of diversity or very little diversity in leadership roles. But I think the piece that Amos is doing in terms of highlighting talent through the awards and so forth, I think is absolutely beneficial, and things like that we need to get behind. We need to start highlighting Black ethnic minority talent within the industry, so it's affirmed to people that actually they are here and they can do a phenomenal job when given the chance and opportunity.
Yeah, super. Priya, we've just had a question or a comment. Well, it's a question come in response to something you said about blind CVs. So they've said unconscious bias also applies to names. So why are you not of the opinion for blind CV recruitment? Or in another view, what is the value of having names on CVs?
Huge value in having names. I think it's, I actually sort of released this campaign yesterday, which is called the My Name Is campaign. And it's about placing importance on someone's name. It's about recognizing that your name is your identity, it's your ultimate identity. It encompasses your culture, heritage, personal connections. I want my name to be on a CV. If you are not hiring me based on my name, I don't want to work for you anyway. So why should my name be removed from a CV just to protect a company's unconscious bias? And that is the long and the short of it. So I would never remove names from a CV, and I don't think any company should remove names from a CV. In fact, if we had it in an ideal world, we wouldn't remove anything. But unfortunately, we have some biases. But don't remove someone's name. That is their ultimate identity.
That's an interesting angle, actually, because I think HS2 have had a really high success rate about what we've using blind CVs and increasing the number of minority ethnic people within the organisation. But you're right, we shouldn't have to do that. I can totally understand why anyone wouldn't want to work for an organisation that was going to be biased against your name. So yeah. Amar, do you want to just add kind of your thoughts on kind of how diversifying the leadership?
Yeah, I think again, I think it's a little bit more. I think how to speed up the process. So it'd probably be more around training. If you do have people, if you do have talented, diverse people in your organization, to speed that process up, you have to give them the right training, and to give them access to that training that can accelerate at an accelerated pace, which can take them to that step, the missing step, I guess that's what you called earlier. So training is a really important part of it. And then I think the other one, which we've touched on, it's go back to True's point. People who are outgoing, we should be looking at those. Who is leaving the organization? Why are they leaving the organization? At which stage have they left the organization? I think those 2-3 questions would really give the insight to where the business is. And I guess you can make a very informed decision once you've had those stats in front of you, or looking at what's actually happening in the business and the reasons behind it. But yeah, speeding up that process, I think, would be down to really giving somebody a fast track course in the field that you want them to accelerate into, or in a role that you want them to accelerate into. And then and it just depends on organizations. You can go out and hire, which again Priya's touched on hiring the talent in, or if you're going to bring them through your own organization. So I guess that's covering both points.
Yeah, thanks, Amar. And I think as well, sponsorship through organisations is found to be really effective with people when you're not in the room fighting your cause for you, and I think we need to get more of that in place for those groups that are underrepresented. Just moving on slightly, obviously Fortel is a minority-owned business, and Priya touched on earlier about organisations looking at their supply chains. So what impact does using a minority-owned business have, and how can organisations encourage those businesses to join their supply chains? Amos, do you want to start with that one?
I think it's an interesting sort of space for Project Taco and minority-led businesses, and we've obviously been doing work as well with organisations in that space to see how we can connect them to the right businesses, etc., etc. It's probably an area where it's also slightly behind the people stage, because if you remember a few years ago, people used to just want to be given a chance, and so now we're talking about promotion, etc., etc., and having minorities in senior level. But when it comes to minority-led businesses, I guess the conversation is still a little bit behind. It's literally still about just getting your foot in the door for these organizations, and usually the way, I guess, business is a bit more, I guess, a bit more heavier than people. So people just get a job, etc. But people's businesses, which are doing a lot, let's say with your company, whoever. So there's a lot more at stake. There's longer term relations. That in there, people are obviously scared of delivery. So, for example, if I come in and I don't, do the right thing and work as a person, I guess the impact is right there. But if it's a big project and it's a subcontract, etc., there's bigger consequences. So I think, and the way the whole system works in that regard is all based upon relations, like really strong relations. So people work with what they know, they give to people that are giving work forever, and it just keeps happening. And so the challenges is just terms of getting through the door, right? But I think from my personal perspective, I think people should be giving minority-owned business a chance. Obviously, within reason, if they can do the job, they should get a chance. And also, they might get it wrong, and people should know that. It's not a surprise if a company doesn't do the job properly, because the one with the first. Not that I'm promoting bad standards, but I'm saying people always like, I don't know them, but you look at the company, they haven't delivered all their jobs on time ever. But then when it comes to minority owned business, they're not sure about you. When the actual existing supply chain, that's the biggest risk they're gonna face. So I think it's just sort of enlightening people to say people should just, organizers should be given a chance. Make a start. If you don't want to give the whole lot, give part of it, but it's got to make a start. It's got a massive impact. But at this point in time, I think the conversation is still around the access alone, because sometimes it's a really closed up space.
Thanks, Amos. Am I right in thinking that Black professionals in constructions have got a supplier database for this?
Yeah. So I think in terms of its development, we're still slightly behind the sort of people. So obviously we work with people, the network, all this, the talent acquisition, and what's coming behind that now is like a procurement hub that we're building. So it's already there. We've got about 200 companies in it at the moment, but it needs a lot more administrative effort to actually make it really useful, which we're going to anyway. But it's just a matter of time where get the businesses, we can connect them to the right businesses, get them accredited, all the stuff that you need for like PPQs and all that sort of stuff. So you can get tendering properly, and then for some maybe business support in terms of actually how to run a business. And you got to realize quite a number of them are already small businesses, so they face the similar challenges any other small business will face. We should be in and around, the capacity, resource, all that sort of stuff. So we're looking to sort of mitigate that and have it spread across the country. So it makes it so much easy. It will make it so much easy to procure. And the thing is minority-owned business, they sometimes treated separately, but they're just businesses. So what we really want is we don't want to have this portal where we have in these minority-owned businesses. They're different. We just have a pathway to get people to go where all the businesses are supposed to be. So I remember working with a certain organization and they have business breakfast every sort of couple of months. But then separately, we were talking about minority-owned businesses. And we were supposed to have an event, and then I was like on the call, well, I thought you had an event about business breakfast. Why don't you invite these businesses? Oh, they were just seeing them as separate businesses. That needs like a leg up. I was like, no, actually, the main point is so that they join everybody else, and then they just become a normal business without a label on it. So for us, that's the pathway we're trying to create, where we just a pathway to help someone give a leg up, so they can give them that visibility and a bit of help, and we basically connect a block. So yeah, we do have that portal. That was a long answer to that.
No, it's useful because I get asked that question a lot, and actually it's really great to hear that you are supporting SMEs. As somebody who's set up my own business myself, I know how daunting it can be, and actually giving that support I think will really help people. Amar, do you want to comment on this one?
Yep. I think in terms of the supply chains, I think it's more around when we do the workforce, we're doing about equal representation and inclusiveness. So I think it's for me, it's a very similar thing. It's actually again an equal inclusive thing and an equal representation in your business environment within your supply chain. And it's not obviously about creating any positive discrimination, but just giving people their opportunity, equal opportunity to supply the goods, the services they do. It doesn't matter about their size, and I think if it's an SME, tier ones or anybody should be giving them a bit more support because of their overhead being that, smaller, they wouldn't have enough time to go back with big tenders or anything. And if it's a big tender and you're going to go to an SME, there would be, I think, probably more problems, than just that. But we've got to just keep in mind in terms of what we're asking them for, not big insurances, because that's going to affect their overheads. Not I guess too much paperwork and everything, and where we can support, we should support the SMEs to come through on their agenda. And I think then obviously we've touched on a point where we can go out to businesses such as BPIC, Amazon's business. They've got a database of suppliers. Bigger organizations can go and work with them. There are obviously MSD UK has got their own database as well. We're certified by them as an ethnic minority business. So I guess it's one of those where the minority of businesses, to encourage them come forward. You can work through your supply chain, make it easy for them, or you can go to databases like Amos and MSD UK, and then you can get connected through them.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amar. It's good to hear about those MSD and Amnesty International as well. True, you hit the headlines in Birmingham with some. I think you pulled away from some work with the Arts Performing Academy. Do you want to just give us your thoughts on supply chain and supporting corporates?
Yeah. So I think this is a really interesting discussion because, as you mentioned, we made a stance of not performing in front of non-diverse audiences, and just to supply some context to this conversation. So as a performing arts academy that primarily works with young people aged between 18 to 30-ish, for the last decade, we've been going out, providing high quality entertainment for mainly corporate events across the Midlands. If you've been to any corporate event in the Midlands, i.e. awards and gala dinners and stuff, you probably would have came across us once or twice before. And for a long time, we've been going to these spaces, to these events, and unfortunately, there's been a lack of diversity at the tables. And by that, I'm specifically going to mention Black people for the sake of this discussion. And for a long time, we've been seeing that, but in comparison, there's been Black waiters and cleaners and entertainers in abundance. So we've been discussing it for a long time, but we decided that no time was a good time. So we decided actually we were just going to say, event organisers need to do more to encourage diversity at their tables. It's not just good enough as an event organiser to say we're going to make sure our panels are diverse, but actually, what about your audiences, and what are you doing to make them inclusive and welcoming to the Black community for the sake of this discussion? And as a result, we said that actually we're not going to perform in front of audiences or in a room that has less Black members at the tables and on stage, which is usually 10 to 15 people, where in a room of 500 people, that's 1 or 2%, nothing really, but it gives accountability to, or on the event organisers to look at ways to make the events inclusive. And of course, the stance has ruffled a few feathers, and it's allowed corporates to really look at their own event practice and question whether their events are inclusive. And by that, I don't just mean putting out tickets and saying anybody can come. That's not inclusivity. That's probably more a diversity tick box. But actually, what are you doing in order to make it inclusive? What are you doing to meet the cultural needs or celebrate the cultural needs of certain demographics that are coming into the space, etc. So I 100% believe that we should, where possible, be celebrating different cultures in different spaces, and we should be making, I guess, our spaces more diverse. Has it affected us? Absolutely. But for me, how I make my money is just as important to how much money I make. And I'm going to say it again, how I make my money is just as important to how much money I make. And unfortunately, I don't want to be part of the rhetoric where Black people are only seen as waiters and cleaners. And it's because of that reason why we made this stance.
That's brilliant. I love hearing about people ruffling feathers. It makes my day. And I think you've probably made an impact there. And you're right. You comment about how you make your money is just as important as how much money you make. Hopefully a lot of people are starting to look at ethics around how they make the money as well. Priya, have you got any experience around supply chains that you want to bring into the conversation?
So I work with a number of companies, usually for sponsorship opportunities, or if they get in touch for wanting to advertise with us, number of things. And I think there are certain requirements that we would always say to them, we don't really want to be working with a company that isn't looking to make diversity and inclusivity changes within their organization themselves. I mean, there has to be an acknowledgement that they have approached us because they want that help, so they're not actually perfect, but they've got to show some initiative, show that they are looking to make some changes. I think that's really important. Also when some companies have been in the wrong. So I know, I think was it last year when Savills had an employee which made a racist comment. I think it was regarding the football. BAME Property were very quickly to say, look, this isn't on and we're not going to work with Savills. And we haven't worked with them since. And I think it's really important for us to sort of take that stand. We don't want to be associated with companies that are not looking to educate themselves with regards to, anti-racist practices. I think that's really important. So, we're not going to not work with companies who are not necessarily fully diverse, because I think they are on that journey. And let's be honest, a lot of the companies within our industry are not diverse, and that's the whole reason that we are here as organizations, as consultants, so on. So I think we have to sort of have that understanding of, we will look to work with you, but you've got to be willing to make that change as well.
That's great to hear. And I think that again comes to what True was saying. It's about how you make your money. Not just how much money you make. Just on that, you touched on the anti-racism movement. What would you like to see white people do more of to support the anti-racism movement in the industry? I think if we go to Amos.
In terms of anti-racism, I think it's because it's such it's such a wide topic in terms of can everybody be anti-racism. I think what needs to happen is have structures in place. So for example, we all know on this phone call, we all know probably don't believe in being green or don't believe in speed limits when you're driving, etc., etc. But we have to live within those limits. So I think in this professional environment and things that happen, there's really got to be guidelines. We should adjust that. I think people that are anti-racist and want to be, they got to be at the forefront of them promoting this sort of those guidelines, the enforcement, etc., etc. But in terms of anti-racist, I think it's not something that I think you can get rid of as much as we all want to get rid of it. Like anything else, we're always going to have those anomalies, but the spaces that we operate in, the professional spaces, how things are conducted, it's got to be within the remits that are anti-racist. So I guess in promoting that is to be vocal about it and just actually focus more on the action, because this conversation seems to be forever, not ending. They just going forever. You can speak to a CEO today and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, how could you not know? Like, so, it's been going on for about 200 years. Like, how could you not know? You're literally born in it. But that's what people do. Is like, oh, right, they didn't understand that. They did. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just never ending. It's a conversation that just never ends. So people that are anti-racist got to be forefront of actually doing the change now. Just do it. So that at least that moves forward. It's one conversation that I've never had ending. I've had it since I was born, until now. It's been happening before. So I'd say for those people that are anti-racist, it's them being at the forefront of really putting stringent measures now, and not really going back onto opening a lot of paperwork and reviewing what needs to go. Everyone knows what needs to go, what needs to happen. So that's what I'd say.
Thanks, Amos. True, do you want to add to that?
Yes, of course. So for me, in an ideal world, I would like to wake up tomorrow and everybody's treated equally and everybody has the same opportunities. But I know that's not going to be the case. I am fully aware of not just the construction industry, but many industries. You know, it's seeped in white supremacy, misogyny, and I think what I would love my white allies to do is, first and foremost, in every industry or in every organisation, I think it now needs to start with policy. I think a lot of companies and organisations rely on the 2010 Equality Act, and actually you need a specific anti-racism policy detailing what happens, what training and support you're going to do in order to be anti-racist. How are you going to combat some of the issues? What are you going to see if you see certain things that you're not happy with? And I think it really has to start with policy. I think we no longer can rely on our goodwill, because that's what it is at the moment. We're relying on goodwill and best practice. But I think it all needs to come down to policy and having a really strong and stern anti-racism policy that we can always refer to, so there's no kind of grey areas, and hopefully that would start, I guess, start us to get on the road of equality, to treat everyone the same. But I think start with policy.
Thanks, True. Amar, should we do an anti-racism policy?
Yeah, I mean, agree with True. Starts with the policy, then comes the procedures and processes, and then comes the change, I guess, you know, when you get down to the bottom of it. Like any policy, you know, bullying, harassment, drug and alcohol. I think True's made a very good point there. Anti-racism should also be a zero tolerance policy, and she should be treated as a gross misconduct, if you ask me, from a HR point of view. But yeah, I think this is something to take away for us to review as a business, you know. But yeah, definitely agree with where True is on what we should do, because that would give all the staff and the workers a stance of where the company stands in regards to that. But I think the other thing True touched on, which was very important, was also training. So as an employer, we can't just say this is the policy and then, you know, just say this is what you got to follow. We got to say, you know, when they have an issue, we should give them some training. So within our industry, I think Supply Chain Sustainability School does a very good job on FIR training, fairness, inclusion, and respect. That's a good training point. I think Sharon has done one for us on LGBTQ+, which we put it on as an e-learning. All our senior members of staff have done it, and we made a pledge on that training. So it's just more around, I think, giving all your staff the training, not just, I think, concise it to a certain group. It should be if you're trying to achieve, like True started with, if you're trying to achieve an inclusive environment, we have to say it should be for everybody. And we as leaders should be thinking inclusively, and we shouldn't be isolating certain groups of people, because then it could become anti to what you're trying to achieve here. So to become fully inclusive, you have to really believe in everybody's equal. So if everybody's equal, everybody should have the same training, and the policy should be for everybody. I guess that's where I am.
And Priya, any comments from you?
I think I would agree with everything that has been said, but I'd also add that it's really important for some white people to recognise their privilege, sort of understand that you might have the same career path as someone with regards to the same roles, but how you got there could be very different based on your education, your social circles, your level of networking, and just how people treat you. And I think that is really important. And there's this really good graphic which has been circulating for years of literally two people running, or they're sort of lining up and they're about to run a race, and there's this white man who's got a very clear path, and there's this black woman who's got all these hurdles in front of her, which just really visually shows just how difficult it can be for two people who are looking to pursue the same career path. There are so many obstacles around us, and often people say that your network is part of your net worth. But if you don't have those connections to build, to contact, to tap into, then you will probably not progress in the same capacity as somebody else who is very well connected. So I think recognizing your privilege and sort of taking that into consideration when you're making promotions, when you're, giving new opportunities to people. They may have not done something like this before, but it's really important to give them that opportunity. Those are the sort of things that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, thanks, Priya. And actually, I know some good undergraduate mentoring schemes that are out there that are focused on people that don't have those privileged backgrounds coming into our industry. So, there's some really tangible action there. We are coming to the end of the hour. I just wanted to close by everybody telling us what one action would you like everyone to do after leaving this webinar. Amos, could we start with you?
Yeah, I think in terms of the action is to if there's things to be done, people to be given opportunities, companies to engage with, just go ahead and do it, and just give the opportunity. There's nothing more you can read about that you haven't read about, or that's not there yet, and it's not really going to do much to you. So I'll say let's be more direct, action orientated, and just keep it that simple, really. Without, and that's it. That's your answer.
Priya?
I'm going to go back to sort of really basic things and just say, get someone's name right. If you don't know how to pronounce it, ask them. Make the effort. And I think getting someone's name right is the utmost foundation of a relationship. It shows that you respect them, and I think that is really important. And we often forget that these simple things are really important. We'll often shorten names because we can't pronounce them, but actually make the effort.
Good one. I've got your name right, haven't I? True.
I love that, Priya. I think that's so important. Thank you for raising that. For me, it's going to be really simple and probably a little bit what Amos was saying. We need to stop saying we're listening and learning in silo. I think that time for listening and learning is now over. It's ongoing, but it's now over. I think it should be listening and learning and implementing. I think we have to start taking action. No matter how big or small the action is, we must now start taking action. Listening and learning is done.
Brilliant, super. And Amar?
I think I'll go with the true, what he asked us for is the anti-racism policy. I quite like that one. Go away and have a look at that one. Super,
that's brilliant. Some really good actions there that I think people can take away. And the main message is just do it. Just get on with it. So thank you very much to all our panelists today, Priya, True, Amos and Amar. It's been really good conversation. I think people got out of it a lot of things to take away and action, as we hope to do it from the title of the UK Race Equality Week. I think Fortel, there's a thing on the screen at the moment. We're going to have, as I say, we're having a series of events over the year. If you want to find out more about the upcoming ones, then just follow Fortel on social media. We've got some good ones planned for the future. And just to say again, a big thank you to the panelists. So thank you very much.